Okay. Today's January 2nd, 1998, and we're interviewing Elizabeth Breyer, and I'm Dave Hatfield, and we'll start off with a few questions here. What is your full name?
My full name is Elizabeth Hilda, and my last name Breyer.
Okay. And your maiden name was?
Braun. B-R-A-U-N.
B-R-A-U-N, okay. And you were born in 1908?
1908, the 13th of April.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. And what the name of your city, the town that you were born in was?
The village?
Yeah.
It's Ornberg. Ornberg, and I was in the state of Württemberg years ago.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And let's see. Let's talk about a little bit about your father was. You said he was a barber.
He
And
was. You want his name?
Mm-hmm.
Should I say it in German or in English?
You can do both. You can do both.
Well, his name was Wilhelm Braun, and he was a farmer. He was also, you wanted to know his occupation.
Sure.
He was a small farmer. We had a very small farm. We had pear trees, apple trees, cherry trees, and we didn't have any horses. We only had about 3 cows, and we had chickens. And my dad was also the village barber.
Mm-hmm.
He was a handyman too. He helped people. He chopped wood. He even made brooms out of things what grew in the woods, fine mud, which is a brush, you know.
Mm-hmm.
We raised wheat, corn. We threshed the wheat with what they called flails. At that time we didn't have any machine to thresh the corn, the things with. So 3 or 4 people usually threshed. I used to help too when I was just about maybe 10 or 11 years old.
Okay.
And you had to stay intact. You had to you grease the flails and hit that, and it had to make even sound. Otherwise, my dad would say, "Oh, you're out of order again," you know. And we kind of enjoyed that though. And my mother, of course, she was a housewife. She took care of the children, and there were 7 of us.
Mm-hmm.
And I was the second youngest one. My sister Hilda was just about, not quite 2 years younger than I was, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know what else you want me to say now.
Well, like your house, did you have electricity? Or
No, well,
electricity
it had in the last few years I was out there. We had electricity then. We had, in fact, we had a beautiful lamp in our living room. My dad insisted upon this fancy lamp. We pulled it. It was on the wall and on the ceiling, and we pulled it up and down. It had beads on and everything. My dad wanted that fancy lamp. He had this notion to get that, you know.
Yeah.
So it was really neat. So at night, when we'd sit around the table and my dad would read, he'd read out of the Bible before we'd go to bed, and he'd always pull the lamp down so he could see better, you know. But of course, our house wasn't very big. We only had the living room.
Yeah.
Then my dad and mother, they had a bedroom right in back of the living room. They slept downstairs, and us children slept upstairs. We only had 1 big room and a small room. And of course, a lot of the older children were not home anymore then. There were just the smaller ones at home yet, you know. And then we had an attic where we stored apples and different things over winter, you know.
Yeah.
And they slaughtered 1 hog in winter, and we'd have bacon, and we'd have enough meat for all winter. Then, you know, it kept it, and they smoked it, of course, and it kept the bacon and everything.
Oh, okay.
And
did you have water? How did you get your water?
Well, no, we had to carry our water from the. We had to walk, maybe about, not too far, maybe about 30 feet or so to pump the water out of a. There was a big draw, and there was water. There was a pump, and we pump our water. It was nice water, but we had to pump it. We had to carry it home, So of course, I guess after I was gone, they probably had water in the house. Then I don't know when that happened,
Yeah.
And then let's see. And then of course we raised most of our things, the potatoes.
Mm-hmm.
We had our vegetables, beans, carrots, and we had a little garden right across the street from us, and we'd have smaller things growing in there besides flowers,
Okay.
And in the summertime, we'd cook the beans and put them in big trays and dry them in the sun. Same way with apples or pears or any kind of fruit, we dry it in the sun and then store it over winter. And we had dry beans, dry peas, and all that. So we actually had all our things what we needed,
For the
we
winter.
didn't have to buy too many things.
Right. Did you have like a store where you could buy sugar or coffee
Yes,
or
we
anything
had.
like that?
In fact, there were 4 small stores in our village.
Mhm.
4 of them. One of them was just about a block. What we had to walk to get it.
Yeah.
And then we had a bakery too. A bakery. He'd make all kinds of bread and different things,
Yeah.
And then we had a little bit bigger store in the middle of the village. And then another one a little further out. We were well supplied with stores for a small village like we had,
Yeah.
At that time, there were only about 500 people. Then I think afterwards it was about 700,
Oh, okay.
And then, of course, the next village, the next little town was Eeringen,
Mm-hmm.
which we used to walk there. It was about, maybe about 7 or 8 miles. Then afterwards, of course, a bus would run. But as children, we would walk that. We were not afraid to walk that distance, When it was about 12 or so, or maybe even only 11, I'd walk out there.
Right.
There.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you ever go to like a bigger city than that? Did you ever walk to
No.
any or
We
take
used
a
to.
bus?
We had
or
a train too at our village,
Uh-huh.
which went to a city what was called Heilbronn. That was a little bit bigger city.
Uh-huh.
In fact, during the war, that was bombed. That
Oh.
was bombed during the Second World War because they had factories there. They made cars there and everything.
Oh, I see.
So that's where we used to go by train, and we used to with the school and everything. The teacher would take us to sightseeing and all. But then we had, of course, the post office, and there were two, and then there were 2 smaller villages. Where Margaret lives now, Bomellenbach and Eichach. Those people all came to our school. In fact, they came to our church. We had a small church, and they came. The children would be confirmed there because they didn't have no church in their village.
I see.
So for a small village, we really did well, having a train, having a post office, and a church and everything,
Yeah, you had what you needed. Yeah. Did your school? Where did you go to school?
Well, I went to school probably in a 2-room schoolhouse. The fourth, fifth. Let's see, the 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th grade were together, and then the 1, 2, and 3rd grade were in another room. And I only went to school 7 years. I only went to school till I was 13.
Okay.
Then after that, I went then after that, I left home. I worked as a mother's helper in a household where it had one daughter a year younger than I was, and in that winter we went to what they called night school, but I think it was during the day that time. We went twice a week and had some more information about different things, you know. And I loved school, but of course we didn't go. I couldn't go to high school. There was no high school there. My parents couldn't afford it to send us to high school further away, you know.
Yeah.
And we had in the church every Sunday, in the afternoon we'd go and we'd learn different things about the Bible, and that was when I was at this other village when I was between 13 and 15, and then of course that's when my sister, she had come over here in 1921, and my brother Bill came over here in 1922, and that's when they decided I should come over and see them too and stay over here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's when you decided to do that. Yeah. Was it economy, was it good over there? I mean, like after the war, after World War I, was the economy pretty bad?
Yeah, it was pretty bad. You know, the mark wasn't worth anything anymore. You know, like a loaf of bread would cost you maybe $100,000. You know, the inflation was terrible.
Right.
The inflation was something else. When somebody had $1, that was really something. You know.
Yeah.
They used to send us. We had an aunt here in Cleveland, you know, and she used to send us things years ago. That was before the war even. Let me see now. I'm trying to think if that was after this Second World War, because that was after the Second World War, because now I'm getting mixed up. That was after the First World War. She used to send us things. She used to send us stockings, dresses, material, and everything like that. You know, from Cleveland. You know.
Okay.
Yeah, and but then when my sister came over here, she went to visit them before she came to Cincinnati.
Okay.
But I didn't get to see them. But once I think someone did come from there, a cousin, and visited us.
Okay.
Quite a long time ago, and but the economy out there, of course, finally then got somewhat better, of course, over there.
Yeah. Yeah. Like the aunt in Cleveland, what was her name?
Please.
Your aunt in Cleveland what was her name?
Well, I think her name was. The last name was Kurzenberger. I forget her first name now. I'm trying to think. It might have been Catherine. I forget.
Yeah. Okay.
I forget. But anyway, their last name was Kurzenberger.
Okay, and that was your mom's sister?
That was my dad's sister.
Oh, your dad's sister.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Your dad's sister. Okay.
And I don't know what time I don't know when she came to America. I never did find that out.
Okay, and when did your sister come over?
My Kate.
Yeah, Kate. Right.
She came over in 1921.
Okay.
And she got married, you know, to a. Should I just say that? I told.
That's fine. Yeah, go ahead. Say it.
Well, I think I put that in that paper too. You know.
You might have. Yeah.
There was this lady, she lived in our village. She had a sister living over here, and her son lost his wife, and he had a 2-year-old boy, and his sister, and then his sister kept house for him. His name was Adolf Furling, and then she went, and then his mother wrote out, did they know for a nice girl who wanted to come over to America, and maybe marry this man if she liked him enough or not. So since it was so bad out there, my sister Kate, she was willing to come over here just to you know,
Yeah.
one way or the other, see what would happen. So then she came over in September, and on Thanksgiving Day of that year, they got married. That was in 1921. They got married after knowing one another 2 months. But the marriage worked out nice because they liked one another. They had a good marriage. They were married for till the time of his death, you know.
Right.
Which was he passed away quite a few years back. And of course my sister lived to be way over 90. Over 90. But they had 3 more children, although one child died. The little boy died when he was 5 months old. And then they had 2 girls, Catherine and Eleanor, which are my nieces, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And now, let's see.
Then, of course, my sister Hilda came over, too, after I did, you know. She came over quite a few years later then,
Okay.
you know. And, so, of course, she's gone now, too. And she had 3 children.
Your brother Bill, he came over too?
Yeah, my brother Bill came over in 22.
Okay.
He worked in the garden. He worked in the truck garden by my brother-in-law. They had a truck garden.
Oh, I see.
And then after that, he worked, let's see, he worked, I think, down the street for another gardener, too. Then after that, he worked different places. Then he joined the army. He was in the that is much later than in the second when the Second World War started. He was in the army for about 25 years at least, and he was a sergeant. Then he was training the boys. Then he went overseas after that. You know, he was with intelligence. And but my mother and dad had passed away, of course, by that time. And he was with seeing the brothers and the sisters, you know.
Okay.
And then when he came back home, then he didn't. Afterwards he wanted to work some different places, so he got out of the army and he even worked on the railroad then. He didn't work with the army anymore.
Oh.
So I don't know why, because he was so smart. He was German born, and he was only about, there was 3 of them picked out of 50, and he was one of them to be with intelligence. So, but he was always smart, and he always wanted to go to high school years ago, but we could not afford it, you know.
Yeah, right.
But then, of course, he passed away. Let's see, when was that? Passed away before. Well, 22. Old, probably close to 30 years ago now. He passed away. You know.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about getting back to when you were a child.
Yeah.
What did you, like when you played, what did you play with? What kind
Well,
of
when
toys?
we were children, we had very few toys, I'll tell you that. We just played with, during the summer we used to play ball. Everybody was playing, you know, just throwing ball back and forth, or made up games about balls, you know.
Yeah.
Or we made up games about different things, like about Sleeping Beauty. We'd make up games about that, you know, or we'd play drop the handkerchief, or stand in a circle and play different games, or we'd play and we would go swimming. We had a few lakes there. We'd go swimming. We'd take walks in the summer, walk back. We'd gather violets in spring. We'd gather strawberries. We'd gather red raspberries. They grew wild, or blackberries, you know, we didn't have too many toys to play with, but we made up our own games. It seems like we always had fun, you know. We always had friends.
Yeah.
And the girl across the street, she had quite a. She was the only, not the only child, but she was the only girl. And they had a lot of fruit. They had the best plums, and they had the such good cherries and everything. Mm-hmm. And we'd go and pick cherries. And I still remember my brother Fritz out there being up in the tree and throwing the cherries down to us. You know, so, and we had plums and everything like that. Uh-huh. So we always had a good time doing, you know, things and helping.
Right.
Helping and maybe gathering things, you know. And then, of course, at Christmas, we didn't get too many toys, but we always had a Christmas tree. My mother always put big cookies, Lebkuchen, springerles, and different things, you know. And she'd always make coffee cake. And, of course, during the war, of course, now we're going to get back again, but during the First World War, you're not supposed to use the white flour. You were supposed to give some of that away. You could just use a certain amount, and the rest you had to give away, you know.
Right.
And of course at that time the people would come, and they'd be so hungry, you'd give them. They'd bring a sack, and you'd put them a few potatoes in, or give them maybe a little flour, or give them maybe some cream of wheat, and something like that, you know. And I know one time a lady came, and she was so hungry. My mother had just cooked a big pot of potatoes, and with the peeling on yet, and she had her teenage son along. And that woman was so hungry, she ate half of those potatoes. And the boy seemed so embarrassed because she ate so much, but she was that hungry, you know, the poor woman.
Yeah.
But then again, people would come too, and they would, and of course there was always black market and everything too. But these were poor people you had to feel sorry for.
Right.
You wanted to share with them, you know. Mm-hmm. But of course things got lots better after that in Germany, of course. You know, it got lots better.
Right.
Of course, I didn't get around very much. I was only 15 when I came over here, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, what? I'm trying to think here. Did you ever get in trouble as a child? You know, and your parents had to correct you or anything? Or?
I didn't. No, I didn't.
You're a pretty good child.
No. I don't actually remember my dad ever punishing me. Sometimes my mother, she would just smack us a little bit in passing, you know, but she didn't actually spank us either.
Yeah.
Because we were the younger ones, you know. Maybe I think the boys, my brother Fritz and Bill, they used to get spanked from the father. They used to do things they shouldn't have done, you know how boys are.
Yeah. Right.
But us girls, maybe we were spoiled. I don't know. We were Hilda and I. We were the youngest ones. Although my mother lost numerous children at childbirth, because some were stillborn at that time. The doctors, you know, they would just have a midwife or somebody there, you know. So she had more children than 7. She had quite a few more than that. But there were 7 living ones, though. The 5 girls and the two boys, you know. So we always had a good time together, you know, and all. Then of course my brother Fritz, during the Second World War, no, it was the First World War. He was a prisoner of the English, you know. He was in the war.
Oh, okay.
And but he came back, I guess, after about 2 years. He was okay, you know.
Yeah. So, did any of your other brothers fight in World War I? You had Bill. Was Bill old enough to fight in World War I?
No, Bill was in World War. That was in World War II when he was in. But then, of course, my brother Fritz, he was in World War II again. But but he was too old. He was not in active duty.
Okay.
He was sent home again. But then but then his son, when the war ended, he was in front of the house. It was just the last 2 days of the war when the stormtroopers went through, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And he was in front of the house and he got hit by a shrapnel. He was 15 years old and he was killed right there and then.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was the only son they had, and they had
Yeah.
a daughter yet.
And this was
That
during
was my
World War.
that was World War II then.
Okay, now the Nazi stormtroopers. That's who you're talking about. The Nazi stormtroopers.
Yeah.
Is that who you're talking about that went through the
Yeah.
village? You said the stormtroopers
Yeah.
went through.
Well, they went through, and then of course our village. There was quite a few. There was quite a few people killed in that small village. You know, quite a few.
Yeah.
But that was the last couple of days of the war. You know,
Right.
when everything. And then let's see. I'm trying to think. And of course, my husband's people. There were quite a few of those. His nephews. There was quite a few of his nephews killed too in the Second World War.
I see.
Quite a few. They didn't come back anymore, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
It's terrible.
then afterwards, of course, and later on in 1945 that ended. Then I guess I don't know if it was how much later it was we heard from them out there, you know, when they all had happened. Then we could send packages out there, you know.
Mm-hmm.
We could send packages like but things were here were rationed still too. There wasn't. We could send flour, we could send sugar, we could send coffee, but just a certain amount, you know. And at that time it cost you about just 22 cents to send a pound. You could send as much as, how much was it you could send? I think at least about 30 pounds you could send, you know, at one time.
Right.
And of course they were appreciative of that because they could hardly get anything out there, you know.
Yeah.
But then in the big towns out there, you know, I guess they'd go around and and there was so much black market going on anyway there, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But then the little guys just didn't have anything, you know.
Right.
So it was after the First World War and after the Second World War, it was the same thing, you know. It was always since the Germans were losers, they just ended up with nothing, you know.
Right.
And of course afterwards the Americans were ready to help them, you know, again. Like, so it seems like I guess they felt sorry for the loser, you know. So they were now, of course, it's different again. Now they probably have things just as nice as we have here, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was what, 50 years ago almost.
Yeah.
And
I think it's
or
it was a
something
long
like
time
that.
ago.
Long time ago.
Yeah, a long time ago.
Yeah, it's they've come back. Germany's come back a lot.
Yeah.
Let's see. Now, when you came over to America, tell me a little bit about that. Tell me about when you had to leave your family.
Yeah.
And how did you got on a boat or
Yeah,
just
we
kind of
got
tell
on
me
a
about
boat.
that?
It took the boat 10 days to get over here.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when you were on the boat, what was it like?
I guess it seemed like fun to me. I was only sick about one day, you know, since people get so seasick.
Right.
And I enjoyed the food. The first time I ever had ice cream, and the first time I ever tasted ice cream, and it was on that boat, you know. And so I thought, and then we got to Ellis Island, you know.
Right.
And you had I was there about 3 days till they, check you out and see if everything was okay, and then you were sent here to. Then, and of course, I came over with someone who had been here before, who had been visiting out there, an older couple, and then I went with them onto the train then from Ellis Island, but they went to Texas, so of course they went different direction then. So I came. So when I came over here, I landed up down in the Cincinnati terminal,
You took a train from
Yeah, I took
New
a train,
York? Okay.
And they had given me the address of my brother-in-law's parents, who lived on Vine Street, which is a very terrible neighborhood now, I guess.
Right.
But they had all these German people had big old houses down there.
Yeah.
With when part of it out, they had one of them big houses, and so I took a taxi cab and I got there to Vine Street. Yeah, and then my brother-in-law and sister came that evening to pick me up. And when I got to their place, I thought, well, my brother was there, of course, and my sister, and my brother-in-law. He was a good guy. He was a diamond in the rough. He was really a nice guy,
Yeah.
He was friendly. He was to all of us, who came over here.
Yeah.
And they had this truck garden. They had a lot of. There was a lot of work. My sister worked hard, but they had a lot of good food all the time. He'd go to market, and he'd bring boxes of during this summer he'd bring boxes of raspberries, or strawberries or everything like that home. He always had oranges and everything. Of course, they raised all their own things. They had cucumbers, carrots, and everything like that. All their stuff, lettuce, and everything. But we worked hard, but we had a nice time though,
Yeah.
And I worked there, I worked there till I was 18. Then my sister Hilda, she came over then in the meantime. And then she helped my sister Kate,
Yeah.
And I went to work as a helper in the household out in the village of Wyoming, and I worked there for, 2 years then, before I got married.
Who was the family you worked for?
It was I forget their name. It was just a man and a woman, and I forget their name now. Forget their name. They had a nice big house out in the village of Wyoming. I just can't think of the name. Oh, I think it was. Trying to think. I think it was Smith. I'm not kidding. It was Smith. And we had a. And I liked it there, but then I got married after 2 years. Then got married 21st of February of 1928.
And then you and your husband moved to this house
Yeah, we
here.
moved in here. The
Now, this
house
was
was brand new. Yes.
Brand new.
Yeah.
And what was the area around here? Was it like farmland
there was woods back here. The woods. In fact, this part was not built on. This was.
So from this wall.
This was
back
wasn't
here.
This was built on.
Okay.
And it was all woods back there. There were blackberries and all kinds of wildflowers and everything, in the woods and all. We used to take walks back there.
Yeah.
Pick the blackberries in fall, and in the spring and summer, I guess. The blackberry.
Yeah.
And it was fun. It was nice back here, and all the neighbors knew one another here. Then it was mostly people had bought all these houses then, and all, and everybody knew one another. We'd have sometimes block parties and everything here,
Yeah.
And so then, of course, after my husband worked he worked in the dairy after we got married. He worked in the dairy. He worked there at Casimir Dairy in Norwood for 36 years. And then they sold out to Finch Power, and he worked there, I think, 4 or 5 years before he retired at age 66. Yes.
Yeah.
And
What-
so
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
so he always, and even during the Depression, he always had work. So we were lucky, you know.
Yeah.
We were lucky because he always had work during the Depression. He worked.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a rough time.
Yeah.
When you first came over to America, what did you think when you saw the United States?
Yeah. I thought it was really something. When I went to my sister's, I thought I was in heaven because she had all these good things to eat. You know, there was plenty of food all the time, and in the first month, I was really, and then she would take me. She would have me meet some of her friends and all, and of course, we'd take me along to the store, and I thought it was really something, you know. Yeah, I thought it was great. And then, I was going to say something. Yeah, but then after a month, I got really, really homesick. Not right away, but after I was here a month. I was so homesick I could hardly stand it.
Oh.
Yeah, but that too passed, you know, after a couple of weeks, you know. But my sister, when she first came over, Kate, of course, she didn't have anybody here. She knew, you know. She was so homesick. She was really in misery for a long time, I think,
Right.
you know.
That'd be
But then
tough.
she adjusted to it too.
Right.
But I think everybody, you know, like you think, oh, America, that's the land of plenty. That's the land of milk and honey. That's the way. I think that's the way some of those kids still think, because some of those teenagers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. When people from other countries come over here,
Yeah.
you know, and it is, you know,
Yeah.
our
They think
nation's really been blessed, you know.
like
what we have.
like not too long ago, it's in the paper. These teenagers came over from Germany and different places, and they thought too that everything was so great here. But they found out too that it was that they said if people would write a real life story, this one girl said, nobody would even read it. They just wanted to hear fantasy stuff from this land, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Okay, when you went, you moved here in 1928. You were
Yeah.
married,
Yeah.
and then the Depression hit, like in 1929 or
Yeah.
1930, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
What was it like then? Was it
Oh well.
pretty tough for you all? Or?
It was bad here, you know. It was pretty bad for some people. Why, at that time, I guess some of the people hardly had any work. And if you had steady work, we're really, really lucky, you know. And things were, you know. I even think when I look back down at my sister and brother-in-law's garden, things didn't bring very much. You know, the vegetables were they were so cheap. Sometimes you almost had to give them away. You know,
Yeah.
it was so like sometimes you'd only get about maybe we'd always tie beets and things like that, or carrots. And sometimes they'd only bring about maybe 30 cents a dozen bunches, you know. I mean, it was pretty bad.
Yeah.
It was a pretty bad thing. And of course the working man, some of these people were lucky if they'd make like maybe $10-15 a week, you know. And of course there wasn't enough work there, you know, at all. That was pretty bad for some of these people. And of course we didn't, as I said, we were lucky because my husband always had work, but of course at that time he would just make like $30 a week, which was a lot though, against some people making only maybe $15 a week,
Right.
you know.
Right.
So we didn't do too bad then,
No.
you know.
Yeah. That
And
was good.
we always had plenty to eat, and plenty to pay our bills. Of course, I don't think anybody lived at that time. Nothing was that much for. Nobody was that much for fast food or anything like that yet. You know,
No, right.
you made all your things yourself. You made your cakes from scratch. You didn't go to McDonald's or anything like that, because I think some of those places weren't even there yet then. You know,
Right.
I doubt it.
Right.
but everybody got along.
Yeah. Now, when you say had to go downtown or wherever to the store, how did you get there? Did you have a car,
Well,
or
we
did you?
took the bus mostly.
Mm-hmm.
The streetcars at that time. You know, streetcars used
Streetcars.
to run. Yeah. It was the fare. You get 3 tickets. You get 3 tickets for a quarter. You know, 3
Yeah.
tickets, or six for 50 cents. You know.
Yeah.
So one ticket cost you about 8.5 cents for one trip. You know, to go to town.
Yeah.
And then, and of course, after my husband had a car, though, of course, he had a Model T Ford, you know. And then after that, he bought a new one. That was before we were married, you know, even. And it was $500 that time. Yeah, $500 for
For the car.
yeah. And so, and but when we used to go to town before the children were born, and it was in 1928, 29, 30, we used to go to town, and they'd have vaudeville there on Saturday nights. But we take the bus down, because it was you didn't have to park or anything. We'd take the bus home and get home on the bus again. But it was fun, you know. That's about the only places we would go. We'd go to Coney Island, or we'd go to the zoo, places like that, you know.
Did like when your kids were born, were they when your children were born, your two Richard and Bill, were they born here in the house, or were they born?
They were born in the hospital. We were born both
Hospital?
at Bethesda Hospital.
Oh, Bethesda Hospital. Okay.
Bethesda Hospital and Oak Street, Oak and Reading Road. You know,
Yeah.
yeah. That was in 31 and 35.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that probably changed your life, having kids and all that sort of thing.
Of course.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know I'm getting doing everything backward, but we were here. Let's see, I was here from 1923 till it was 1931. That was 8 years. We were here 8 years when we took our citizenship papers out, you know.
Right.
And Richard wasn't born yet then. Richard was 3 weeks old when he took out a citizenship paper. Yeah, we went downtown and we had 2 witnesses, you know.
Right.
And of course, I have the citizenship papers.
Yeah. I think I got a copy. I've got a copy
of
of
that,
them,
you know.
Right.
And so you had to be here 5 years before you could get your papers out. You know, you had to be here 5 years.
Yeah.
So should take them out a little bit sooner. Because when we took them out, it was cold. And one night we had to go to school for that. You know, we went downtown I think it was the old Rotenberg School downtown, and we had a good teacher. And my friends from Cleve, they went down there too. They took their son along. They had a little boy about 3 or 4 years old then. And but one night we couldn't make it. I guess I was about seven, close to 8 months pregnant then, and then it had snowed and the car turned around. We slid, so we had to come home again. So it was the only time we missed the school.
Yeah.
It was fun even to take to school to learn about, you know,
Yeah.
the different things, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh. Let's see. like radio and TV. Did you have radio here in the house
Well,
for a while, or did
I'll
you?
tell you. I forget now if it was the second. There's that cabinet's still out there. It had the radio in. The second, and was it the second year we got the radio? We bought it. This friend of ours. He lived down. They lived next door to my sister Kate down there.
Uh-huh.
He was in that business. He was selling radios.
Uh-huh.
So we got this radio. It was in that cabinet out there, but sitting out there in the breakfast nook. We ever have some dishes in there. Paid it $150 that time for that radio and cabinet. It was a beautiful. It was a beautiful cabinet. It was brown, you know. We
Right.
painted it white then.
Oh, okay.
It's still sitting out there. And it's still, the wood is still good.
Is
it was
it?
really good
Yeah.
wood. We had that, and we'd sit there and listen. Heck, when that first came out, you thought, wonder what it was, you know, when first the radio came out, you know.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
What shows did you listen to? A lot of radio shows, or?
Yeah, used to be, well, and Saturday morning, the kids, they would watch Captain Midnight, and then Jack Armstrong, the All-American Boy, some advertised cream of wheat, and all, and then they would, and of course there would be Jack Benny on and Mary Livingston, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and George Burns and Gracie Allen,
Right.
and all that shows be
Yeah.
on. And I remember one was just plain Bill, and all the other ones now. There's quite a few we used to listen to. Just plain. And let's see, we used to watch all these shows. We thought, wonder what they were, you know, and of course Bob Hope used to. I guess he used to be on too, but I forget now what show he was on. And there was one called with Ma Peregrine. She was on. Must have been a few more. I just can't remember now. But we used to watch all those shows, and we thought they were wonderful. You know, That was, of course, before television came. Then you think so much
Thought it
about
was-
it.
right,
Yeah,
right.
The kids, they would just sit there on a Saturday and listen to those things, you know, and I guess they were satisfied too. They didn't know nothing else, you know.
Yeah, yeah. What when did you get your first TV? Do you remember when that was?
I just don't remember. When? I'm trying to think. I know we had a TV before my sister had one down there.
Mm-hmm.
And, let's see, I know my brother Bill, he was still here, and he and his wife, and my sister and her husband, they used to come up to watch the wrestling matches because they didn't have no TV. I know why they wanted to watch them, but they were so for the wrestling matches, which I didn't give a darn about, you know. They used to come up, and I forget now what year that was. It was after my brother was out of the army then. Well, let's see, it's 40. Just trying to think. Let's see. Like Heidi. Let's see, she's about 30, 36 now. And that must be about 35 years ago at least.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, probably early 60s or late 50s
Yeah,
maybe?
maybe it's about, early 60s must be. But then after that, everybody had, of course, when TV first came on, it was Milton Berle, you know.
Mhm.
First, everybody watched Milton Berle, yeah. It was, I thought, wonder. And of course, all those Lucy shows and everything. Those
Yeah.
were the things that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, did you have TV like when Kennedy was assassinated? When John F. Kennedy was assassinated, did you have TV or did you have?
Yeah.
Did you have TV?
Yeah,
Were you able to
yeah,
see a lot?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that. And you probably like when the man first landed on the moon. You were probably
Yeah.
able to see that and all
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. I'm gonna turn it off just a second. I'm trying to think. Okay. How many grandchildren do you have?
Well, I have 19. The 20th on the way.
Great grandchildren?
Yeah.
So you have 10
I
grandchildren?
have 10 grandchildren.
Okay, and
That's 7 girls and 3 boys.
right,
Yeah.
right. And then you have how many great grandchildren?
19.
19. And 20's on the
And,
way.
yeah.
Laura's.
Yeah.
Laura's. And you like being a grandparent and a great grandparent, right?
Oh, yes.
Yes. They
Very
keep you
much.
busy, right? Right. What do you like to do in your spare time? I mean, I know
Well, I like to read
you.
in my
Yeah.
spare time. I love to read, and I used to like to knit. I still have to knit a shawl for the common baby now. You
Right.
make a shawl for all the great grandchildren
Right.
to wrap them in, and of course my hobbies are reading, knitting, watch TV a little bit. I love to bake. I love to cook. I love to be outside. I love flowers.
Mm-hmm.
And I always enjoyed babysitting for the children, for the grandchildren.
Yeah.
But of course now I'm sort of handicapped. I can't even pick up the children when they're small. But now that's what bothers me. I could never pick up Michael or Katie.
Yeah. They're
Because and I can carry them around, but I
Yeah.
can hold them,
right.
and I can
Yeah.
still walk after them a little bit and play with them a little bit.
Yell at them to come back,
Yeah.
or whatever. Yeah. What you said you like to read? What's your favorite book?
Favorite
You probably
books.
have lots of them.
Well, I love to read. Oh, I love to read all kinds of novels. I like to read the passages in the Bible.
Mhm.
I like some of my favorites. Of course, my favorite is the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd. In German, it's the Herr ist mein Hirte. I like to read fiction mostly, and of course also about true stories, true happenings. What they write in my favorite magazine is the Good Housekeeping magazines,
Right.
because that includes about everything. They have fiction in there, true stories, true what happens to people, what happens to real people, and always has all the recipes in there for Christmas and everything. And of course, years ago, there used to be, what was the first magazine that was out years ago? They used to always
Better
read.
Homes and Gardens,
It was-
or
Was it a Life magazine? Well, at least
Look,
that still is.
was it Look or Life?
Huh?
Or was it Life magazine or
Yeah,
Time
Life
or
magazine.
Look?
And it was the, let's see,
Reader's Digest?
there was another one. What were you just saying?
Reader's Digest?
Yeah, the Reader's Digest. Oh, I love the Reader's Digest, yes. And that has about everything imaginable in it. I love those.
Yeah.
And of course now they have them in large print, so it makes it better.
Yeah.
And of course I'm still like a kid at heart. I'm still reading I'm still reading about Annie of the Green Gables. I got all the books of Annie and Green Gables Debbie gave me out.
Right.
I read them several times.
Uh-huh. Some nights you really get into reading and you almost stay up all night reading, don't you? Sometimes if you really
That's
like
right.
the
Sometimes
book.
when I can't sleep at night, I turn on the light and read again.
And read.
Yeah.
Yeah. What you like? Some TV shows, don't you? You like?
Well, but you used to watch the soap operas, but they've sort of deteriorated now.
Right.
At night, I like Wheel of Fortune.
Right.
And I like Jeopardy.
Right.
But then I don't watch any of the other shows at night anymore. It has to be very special before I watch anything.
Yeah.
Because some of the stuff what's on now, the half-hour stories, I don't care for them at all.
Right.
Don't care for them at all. And so I don't watch too much TV at night.
Yeah. TV's probably, when it first came out compared to right now, it's really gone downhill, hasn't it? I hear your phone. Do you want me to? Let me stop it and I'll get your phone. Okay, let's see. Your name in German is, how do you pronounce your name in German? It's
Elise.
Elise.
Elise. I should have left it that way too, because Elise, you see the name here all the time too.
Yeah, right.
Elise. Elise.
Right.
Yeah.
How do you say something in German?
Yeah.
Worse.
Wir hatten eine schöne Weihnachten und ich hoffe, das Neujahr wird glücklich.
And what is that in English?
Oh, we had a nice Christmas, and I hope the new year will be a lucky one.
Yes, I'm sure it will. Okay. What is there anything that we haven't talked about that you want to share with us? I know we'll probably think of some other things later to talk about. And we'll get them put on the tape, but for right now.
Trying to think. Well, I think, as I said, I enjoyed my children, my grandchildren, and my great-grandchildren. And of course, I think about one of the happiest moments of your life is having your first child, you know. Because I don't think anything ever beats that, you know.
Right.
When you have a first child and they say, well, here's a healthy little boy, you know.
Right.
And then, of course, with the grandchildren, I was just as enthused about having my first great-grandchild, too.
Right.
Which was Rick, you know. And then, of course, there's all the all the other children from him down. He's 45 now, and of course, your children getting married. Those are happy occasions. Your grandchildren getting married. You feel good about that, and they all found good mates, you know. And then, of course, them having children again, the great-grandchildren, they range down from age, well, Josh is 20 now, down from 20 to 1 year old now, you know. Seems like it's quite bit of difference, almost
Right.
a quarter of a century difference between the first and the last. You know,
Yeah.
by the time
That's a expand.
Loris comes along.
Yeah.
And so I do hope that the new year will be happy, that you'll bring her a healthy baby too,
Right.
you know.
Right. Right.
And of course, Katie will be 2 Sunday. Michael is 5 now, and he made so many improvements this last year. He's really done wonderful.
Right.
No, Katie, she's a little Dickens.
Yeah.
Katie, she takes the cake.
Yeah.
Yeah, she even gives Michael a rough time sometimes.
Yeah. She instigates a lot of things. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what any like message you like to leave for, you know, like
Yeah.
generations to come?
Yeah.
Just as they
Well,
watch this tape.
Just be good to one another. Take each day as it comes. Live each day as good as you can, and always work hard, because that's what brings you satisfaction, to have you get your work well done. And and teach the children to be satisfied with with smaller things too, with things what they can do, with things they can make with their own hands, instead of always depending on everything, to buy everything what they see. They should be satisfied with less sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing I learned from my mother. She was always satisfied. She expected very little of life, and she didn't get that much either, because she had 7 children to raise, and we always had plenty to eat, but we never had anything fancy or anything. But she was satisfied and made things do, and did the best she could.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I always remember that.
Yeah.
Always remember her that way, that she was always happy with just small things, and that she was always just happy when we kids were taken care of, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And of course my dad, he was a good provider, and he took all kinds of jobs to make ends meet, and he was well respected and liked by the whole community, because he helped out people. And my dad was actually a poet. He made up poetry in German.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he was actually that way inclined, and he loved to read, and I think that's where I got this from, that I always wanted to read, you know.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
he loved to read. And maybe my mother, she didn't have that much time to read, except to read out of the Bible to us children, you know, more at morning and in the evening. We always had devotions in our living room at the table.
That's
Yeah.
good.
And either it was Dad or Mother who would read out of the Bible to us. You
Uh-huh.
know.
That's important. That's very good. Yeah. I guess that's it for now. If we think of other things to talk about,
Yeah.
we'll just go ahead and add them onto this tape,
Yeah,
at
okay,
another time.
sometime, okay.
Because if you think of any stories, something we didn't talk about, you know,
Yeah.
I'm sure things will come to mind.
Yeah.
We'll sit down sometime
Yeah.
and just add it onto this tape.
Okay.
So we've got
Okay.
we've
Yes,
got a
I
new
might
story.
think of some small things what happened, you know, and
right,
all.
Right. Just something you know,
Yeah.
could be something funny
Yeah.
or just something, you know,
Yeah.
like to tell. So
Oh yeah, there was one thing I was, you know, I told you that. Oh, is that still on?
yeah, it's okay. Yeah.
And well, I don't know if I should add this on to that. One time when there was a little ice and snow underground, we went sled riding, and my dad, my dad actually built our sleds. He built one. It was a green sled and sort of a brown sled. And for the boys, he made a small. It was like, what would you call it? It had two handles in the front, and the boys would sit on it, you know. But we had a regular sled, you know. So I had the green sled, and we went back there to the little embankment, and there was a small stream, and so somebody pushed me in the back, pushed the sled, and I went down there and went on top of that ice in that stream, but it broke through.
Oh no!
And I don't know if I was about maybe I was about 8 or 9 years old, and my sister Hilda, well, she's 2 years younger, she was along too, and she kept hollering, "Save the sled! Save the sled!"
Didn't say anything about you, huh?
And then finally somebody pulled me out though, and they saved the sled too. Yes.
Yeah.
So I got home, and I was so cold, you know. I was so cold. They took me home, and my mother, she took me back in her small bedroom and dropped me off, and wrapped me up in blankets.
Yeah.
And my dad said I should have been more careful. So
So how old were you?
I must have been about 8 or 9.
8 or 9.
Yes. Yeah. Of course, there was a lot of kids around, you know. They were
right.
all in.
Yeah.
And of course, that was something else, I'll tell you, when the sled started to flow down that stream.
Oh boy, that's probably kind of scary. Yeah. Okay.
And we used to go sled riding quite a bit. The only thing is, we went way, way up, and it must have been a half a mile we had to pull the sleds up, you know. But of course, to go down was fun, but to go up there again, you know, we had to pull them up again. So we'd ride on. We'd go way from way to top down to the village, you know. We could ride that sled, you know.
Yeah.
And that was fun. But of course, we couldn't get up there too many times because we always had to pull the sled up ourselves,
Yeah.
you know.
Got a little tiring after a while.
It was fun.
Yeah. Okay, let me see what this is.
Yeah, I think.
Okay. Just want to make sure I had it
Yeah.
recording. Okay. Well, if you think of anything else,
Yeah, I might write something. I might
write
think
something,
of something
down, and then we can maybe when you come up during the week, we can always do it up there.
Yeah.
And then we can do it that way. But I'll go ahead and turn it on.